Did you guys grow up, with a mom and dad? Today on the Heaven's Metal video podcast, we're going to talk to Larry Van Pelt, my dad. Welcome to the Heaven's Metal video podcast. I'm here with Larry Van Pelt. Hi, Dad. How are you doing today?
Ooh, it's a good day. It's a beautiful day.
I wanted to talk about how Jesus invaded the Van Pelt family and the faith of our family. And I think for both of us, we can point to your dad or granddad Gerald as one of the major catalysts, at least in our lives. What do you remember about your dad, and want to share a little bit about how he came to Christ?
You know, that I don't know if I can explain how he came to Christ, because he grew up in a Christian family where church was part of his life all the time. And as he matured into, he went to college, was in the Army as a charge of an aircraft battalion over in the West Coast during the war. And when he got back, he went back to farming. And when he got back to Beloit, where he had been born and grew up, he was from that point on, he was a Sunday school teacher, and he taught high school youth. And it was just ardently part of his life to be with youth. And he continued that. And later on in his life, they moved from the farm in Kansas to the city in Garden Grove, California, where he became very active in all the Jesus movement activities there. Wilkerson and the church and around, and the Campus Crusade for Christ, and Calvary Chapel, and the 700 Club. All of those events he was part of. And so his maturation and his growth in the Lord was always on the incline. That was his. Even in his later years, you'd go take him to the ball game, and he'd pull out a pack of 3x5 cards that had verses on them while the extraneous things were going on in the preparations for the game. He always had those verses with him. It was so important to him, and it became an inspiration for us, for all of us, the many things that he did.
I remember those index cards. I remember, for instance, for me, being at Dairy Queen with him, and after we placed our order and we were waiting for the ice cream to arrive, he pulls out these 3x5 cards, and he's just working on memorizing scripture. This was when he was 75, maybe 80 years old.
Then when his work with youth was always profound. Young people still proclaim him. He wrote a book called Teens Tell that was just interviews with some of the teenagers in the Southern California environment that was just spectacular. Some of the miraculous things that occurred during that time, during those interviews. And if you ever get a chance to get the book Teens Tell, I republished it a couple years ago.
I think you used HM Press to republish that, didn't you?
To make sure all the grandkids had read about their dad, because it really revealed. But it also revealed how God moves in youth. He then retired moved from California back to be with us in Niceville, Florida, in 1989. So he would have been about 83, about the age I am now, when he brought the family back there, and immediately started helping the church with their activities with teenagers and families with teenagers, and because his expertise was really good there.
That's remarkable. I remember one story that I can never forget is when he was working with the youth early on, I think, in this time in California. He was at the Big Bear Mountain at a retreat with the kids, and he went alone with God to spend some time on the mountain and to listen to God's still small voice. And he heard that still small voice say, "Nope, I can't use you." And his response was, "Why can't you use me, God?" And he goes, "Because you hate someone." And as soon as he heard God tell him, "You hate someone," he knew who God was talking about, some gentleman in Beloit that he'd had a falling out with. So he shortly thereafter booked a trip back to Kansas, met with that guy and reconciled with him. And I don't know where the timing was on this, but his ministry flourished after that. I do know that.
Yeah, he often tells that story, and he talked about driving down the street in Beloit, and he looked out the window. I guess Pearl was driving, and he looked out and he saw that man in the restaurant. He said, "Stop the car!" And he went in to meet that guy at a restaurant and reconciled with him, and it just changed his whole life. That forgiveness and reconciliation was such an important part of being a Christian. And his ministry just expanded. I think it was about after that time frame that he became a counselor with the 700 Club, and he just expanded the things that he did in Christianity.
Well, that was quite the inspiration, and he inspired both me and my dad. That's it for the Heaven's Metal video podcast for today. Please join the discussion.
God bless you. Oh, one thing I want to add, all during that time frame, there was one symbol that was special on the Jesus movement, and Dad always had it. It was a one-way sign. And they made stickers with the one-way sign, and one way, because Jesus said he's the way. And that was the kind of the icon for the Jesus movement, was one way.
Yep. It sure was. Larry Norman wrote a song about it, and I remember in 1972, when I was a little 9-year-old kid, my grandparents came and stayed at our house in Richardson outside of Dallas, and they brought a bunch of teenagers with them that could attend this rally that Campus Crusade for Christ put on called Explo 72, about evangelism explosion, I guess. And anyway, I remember seeing a bunch of these ex-hippies who got saved, and they had trucks, and like Ryder Rents One Way, and they painted on there One Way Jesus and had their finger on there, and it was definitely a part of the background scenery in the Jesus movement.
Lasted for years.
Join the discussion.